Durham Police and the Ottawa Securities Commission are set to announce details of their investigation into Whitby's self-proclaimed Crypto King. That news conference expected to start momentarily. We'll bring that to you live.
The TTC board facing tough questions about the state of the subway after Line 2's major shutdown on Monday.
And the push for around-the-clock construction on the Gardiner, with patients already wearing thin for those caught in the congestion. We'll tell you more about that straight ahead.
Good afternoon and welcome to CP24 Live at Noon. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latifat. Let's go live now to Durham Police Headquarters in Whitby for an update on Project Swan. Let's listen in.
The Durham Regional Police Service began receiving complaints about investment fraud involving a gentleman by the name of Aiden Pleterski and AP Private Equity. Mr. Pleterski claimed to be an extremely profitable investor in foreign exchange and cryptocurrency, and actually referred to himself as the Crypto King. It's alleged that Pleterski solicited funds from investors, promising massive profits and also guaranteeing no loss of the original money put out by investors. These investors became concerned when they were unable to access money held by Pleterski and came forward to police. During that time, Pleterski also used other people to act on his behalf. A joint investigation launched by the Durham Regional Police Service Financial Crimes Unit and the Ontario Securities Commission, the regulator for capital markets in this province, resulted in a project we dubbed Project Swan. This investigation was extremely thorough, with countless interviews conducted and over 40 court orders being sought to gather evidence. This case involved a large number of victims and required meticulous analysis of thousands of financial documents, which took over 18 months before resulting in the arrest of 2 parties. Through this investigation, police also became aware of another individual, Colin Murphy, who also claimed to be generating large weekly profits through savvy investments. The victims provided money to Murphy with the expectation that he was investing it on their behalf and would return to them with large profits. It is alleged that these victims were ultimately defrauded and unable to recover their funds. On May 10th of this year, Colin Murphy, age 27 of Oshawa, was arrested and charged with fraud over $5,000. On May 14th, Aiden Pleterski, 25, of Whitby, was arrested and charged with fraud over $5,000 and laundering proceeds of crime. Investigators have spoken to many people who have been impacted by this fraud and encourage anyone who may be a victim or thinks that they may be a victim to come forward, particularly anybody who has dealt with Mr. Pleterski, Mr. Murphy, or AP Private Equity. We need your information, and this investigation remains active. We have information that Mr. Pleterski may have been attempting to solicit investors as recently as February of this year. And so our concern goes out, and our appeal goes out to those who may have been contacted by him. The successful outcome of this investigation underscores the effectiveness of collaboration between law enforcement agencies and regulatory bodies. We extend our appreciation to all partners involved in this joint effort to combat serious financial fraud and, more importantly, preventing others from becoming victims. Fraud has advanced alongside current technology and has been increasingly more sophisticated over time. It is more important than ever to ensure members of our community take precautions when dealing with financial investments. For more information on crime prevention and fraud prevention specifically, please visit our website. I would now like to invite Mr. Stephen Henkel of the Ontario Securities Commission to speak. Detective Jasiak and Detective Constable Zano will also be here available to answer some questions. Steve?
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon. These charges are a prime example of effective collaboration between a securities regulator and a law enforcement agency. In addition to our partners at the Durham Regional Police Service, I want to acknowledge the assistance of the Toronto Police Service, York Regional Police, Halton Regional Police, the Ontario Provincial Police, TRAC, Canada Border Services Agency, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and the many financial institutions that worked with us throughout this investigation. The Ontario Securities Commission is an independent Crown agency that regulates Ontario's capital markets. The OSC works to protect investors by making and enforcing rules governing the securities industry in Ontario. The OSC and Durham first met to discuss this investigation in October of 2022. Recognizing the need for action, we quickly formed a partnership built on each agency's strengths. Both agencies were involved in investor interviews, of which there were many. We are grateful to the investors who came forward to tell their stories and assist in providing valuable evidence in this case. As Chief Marrera mentioned, the size of the alleged fraud was massive and spanned across multiple jurisdictions. The investigative team included forensic accountants from the OSC. This specialized skill set was vital in the investigation because it enabled us to analyze huge volumes of financial information, quantify the alleged fraud, and follow the money. We are aware that Mr. Pleterski may have been attempting to solicit new investors as recently as February 2024. It is important to note that neither Mr. Pleterski nor Mr. Murphy were registered with the OSC in any capacity. This means they are not permitted to engage in the business of trading securities or providing investment advice. It is critical that all those considering whether to purchase digital assets or any investment product first check whether the person or the business they are dealing with is registered with Canadian securities regulators. You can do this at www.aretheyregistered.ca. If you have not already done so, we encourage any investors who have been approached by Mr. Pleterski or Mr. Murphy or who have invested with AP Private Equity Incorporated to contact the OSC's contact center at 1-877-785-1555, which is a toll-free number, or by emailing us at inquiries@osc.gov.on.ca. Thank you.
If anyone has any questions, you can speak to Detective Jasiak from our Financial Crimes Unit.
All right, fire away.
John Woodward from CTV here. I think we understand how the fraud element of this works, but I don't understand how the money laundering works. Can you let us know the basics of what Mr. Pleterski is alleged to have done on the money laundering side?
Well, in regards to the specifics of the money laundering, as you can appreciate, cannot talk about that due to the publication ban. I can talk about the offense of money laundering, which in its generality is basically taking money as a result of proceeds of crime and converting it into another format to either hide the assets or to use it in another format. That's basically the crux of laundering.
Is that how the cryptocurrency figured in?
Again, I cannot get into specifics about the investigation due to the publication ban, but I'm pretty sure that should capture what you're looking for there for the laundering.
Are you able to tell us anything about how they were able to find their victims?
Again, I wish I could, but due to the publication ban, I am unable to get to the specifics of how that occurred. Yes.
How many victims went into this charge? Right now, there's, I know, one fraud charge laid against both Pleterski and Murphy. Is there a number of victims you could share that have been included in this?
So in regards to the fraud over $5,000, that is what we call a global charge, which it encompasses all the investors. So that's why you see the one count of fraud over $5,000, as opposed to multiple counts for different investors.
Can you speak to how many investors?
Unfortunately, I can't give a quantified number again. I wish I could, but due to the publication ban, I can't give you a quantified number, but I'm sure you can imagine how many there are. This was a very long investigation. We spoke to multiple witnesses, and the point of hoping today that we know that there's plenty more out there, and we encourage any of the investors who invested with Aiden Pleterski, Colin Murphy, or AP Private Equity to please come forward, and we'd love to speak with you and interview you.
Is it fair to say that dozens of people came forward?
I can say multiple people came forward. I can't quantify that number, sorry.
You did mention multiple jurisdictions as well. You say global. Are you able to state or provide any examples of where some of these individuals are from?
Well, I don't want to really identify any of these individuals. It's not fair. They're victims. I don't want to give any information that could potentially identify them. But this does start in the region of Durham, and it expands throughout the multiple jurisdictions.
There was a mention that U.S. Homeland Security was involved. Can you talk about what their involvement was?
Again, can't get into specifics in regards to that, but their help was greatly appreciated in this investigation.
Can you talk to me about how the arrest
went down and what Aiden Pleterski's demeanor was?
So again, can't really get into about Aiden Pleterski's arrest specifically. I can tell you that he was arrested on Tuesday, the 12th of May. Mr. Murphy was arrested on the 10th. He surrendered. I can talk to you about him. He surrendered himself, and he was charged with the count of fraud over $5,000 and eventually released on an undertaking.
Are we able to talk about whether or not they were targeting any specific demographic? We know there's a lot of people who target the elderly. Unfortunately, in this particular case, was there a particular demographic?
Again, I don't really want to get into demographics of individuals because I'm very cognizant and aware. I don't want anything to get out that could potentially identify witnesses or investors. You have to appreciate, and I'm sure you do, that a lot of lives have been devastated by this. It's very emotional for individuals, and we're not going to be in a position to release anything that could potentially identify. I'll just, this lady had a question here. I'll get to you.
I have a few.
All right.
The first idea of the total amount that police are alleging has been defrauded between both Murphy and Pleterski?
A quantified amount, I can't do the publication, unfortunately. I can just leave it at millions.
And is it fair to say that police believe that there's still other investors, victims out there?
Yes. And again, this one of the reasons why we'd like to have this release is to encourage anybody who has been affected by this to contact us, and we will have some phone numbers that people can contact through the either Ontario Securities Commission or through the Durham Regional Police Service.
Thank you. And can you speak to why the case is being moved to Toronto?
Again, due to the publication ban, I'm unable to comment on that. Yes.
I just wanted to follow up again on the arrest. Can you confirm where it took place, at what time of the day, any details about the arrest?
So in relation to Mr. Murphy, the arrest was here in Whitby. I can't get into the details about Mr. Pleterski's arrest. Again, covered by a publication ban. But Mr. Murphy did surrender himself, and he was charged here in Whitby and released here at Whitby.
Okay, and just to follow, I understand bail was put up for his release. Can you comment on how that was presented and by whom and what amount that was?
Unfortunately, I can't.
Given the size of this fraud, what is the message to the public, others who might, be approached by people who are promising to return money in large amounts?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And again, I'll use the old, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And I know everyone's heard that, but in cases of this, it's too good to be true, it probably is. Anybody who's thinking of investing, again, as Senior Investigator Henkel had mentioned, contact the Ontario Securities Commission, see if they're registered, see if they're properly licensed. There's multiple financial agencies that are out there that'll require individuals to be registered. Do some homework, go look into it, and protect yourself, protect your loved ones and your family.
There's a lot of stigma and shame attached to this for a lot of people who have been billed by fraudsters. What do you say to people who are considering coming forward but perhaps are feeling too overwhelmed by shame?
Again, excellent question, because having worked in the financial crimes, we experience that a lot. Our service has some excellent witness victim assistance programs, and we would definitely help the individuals who are suffering or going through any of these emotions to not do it alone. We do have resources that are readily available, and we will make those resources available to them.
What's your message to investors who got ripped off and who are wondering, am I ever going to get my money back?
So we have to follow a court process, and again, I can't make any assurances in regards to restitution, but I do know that if there is a conviction registered, that there are courts will issue a restitution order, and I'd like to make sure that people are hopefully get something back.
My other question is for the chief in regards to April 29th. I just want to clarify here. The SIU spokesperson said Durham police cannot speak to the SIU investigation, which is the pursuit leading up to the multi-vehicle collision, but they can speak to what happened in the LCBO. So could you clarify for us what happened in the LCBO that day?
I appreciate the opportunity, but as you can appreciate, in my mind, those events are not separated. That is one event that happened, and I'm going to let the SIU complete their investigation. While I will have more to say about this, now is not that time.
And what's your message for the family who lost 3 loved ones?
Again, I've put out a message that was on our website. I appreciate the opportunity.
Just going back to this case, and I'm not sure if you can speak to this, do you know what kind of sentence or jail time people in this position could possibly face?
So the criminal code has put a maximum punishment for fraud over $5,000 at 14 years.
Regardless of number of victims, that doesn't affect it.
There are some, as I understand, some sentencing guidelines in regards to the amount, sophistication, et cetera, and that's all comes to the sentencing for the presiding judge to consider in regards to issuing a sentence. But the maximum is 14 years.
Chief mentioned earlier over 40 court orders were sought in this investigation. I'm not expecting you to speak to specifics, but can you speak to the kinds of information you were able to obtain through those court orders?
Yes, as you can appreciate, there was multiple court orders that were required to many financial institutions, multiple businesses. We are requiring these court orders in order to get those documentation, and that documentation was analyzed, which relates to the evidence that led to the charges that we have here.
You mentioned you've been investigating financial fraud for a long time. Can you just compare this to what you've seen over the years and the size of this fraud?
I have been in the unit for a while, and I can say that since my time in this unit, this is, as the chief had said, this is the largest one in the history of this police service.
And we just have time for one more question if you want to ask your question.
Okay, I just wanted to know, I have 2 follow-ups. Can you comment on how the Durham Regional Police is collaborating with the Toronto Police in regards to Aiden Pleterski's kidnapping or alleged kidnapping in December, and whether there's any connection to a young man from this region named Clayton Soika who died in March of 2023?
So I'm not able to comment on a Toronto Police investigation in regards to the kidnapping, so it's not fair. You'll have to ask them in regards to that specific case. And I'm not in a position to make any comment about the gentleman that you had mentioned.
Okay, just to follow up, there was evidence retained from the young man who passed away that was reportedly to support the investigation that Durham Regional Police was doing. Can you comment at all on that evidence that was retained?
No, due to the publication ban, I'm unable to comment on anything related to evidence in our investigation. Again, it's a Toronto Police investigation in relation to the kidnapping, so they would be the best police service to ask questions in regards to their investigation.
And we have a question for Mr. Henkel, if that's all right. Yeah. It came up earlier today that Pleterski was accused of soliciting investments as recently as February. As you said, he's not licensed. You're the regulator. What are you doing about that?
Well, I mean, again, the investigation is what we've conducted throughout. So we were able to establish that Mr. Murphy and Mr. Pleterski were not registered, and that's why we are actually putting out the caution, because as of February 2024, it appeared that he may have been soliciting further investors. So this is why we're having this press conference today. To look for more witnesses. We know there's more witnesses out there, but also to advise the public as an investor warning, just to be more cognizant, check with Canadian security regulators before you invest, and do your due diligence.
Would he be facing any regulatory punishment for doing something he's not licensed to do?
He could, but we're going through the criminal justice system to hold him accountable.
So can you tell me more about what the Ontario Securities Commission is doing, I guess, apart from the criminal side, which, as I understand, deals with things that happened in 2022? What's happening for things happening in 2024?
So this is all part of one global investigation. Again, it was a joint investigation with Durham Regional Police with assistance of other agencies, and this has been a criminal investigation throughout, and as it continues, it'll be a criminal investigation as going forward.
Do you expect to lay any more charges in this case?
With respects to these charges, it's ongoing, so could there be? Again, I don't have a crystal ball. It could very well be.
Just to follow on further charges, can you comment on whether you are investigating any other affiliates of Mr. Pleterski and specifically an affiliate in Chatham, Mr. Ryan Rumble, tied to Banknote Capital?
There are other investigations. That's all I can say at this point in time.
Is it, actually just to clarify that, is it fair to characterize Colin Murphy as associated with directly Pleterski or an affiliate of?
Again, because of the publication ban, I can't really comment on their affiliation.
Thank you all for coming. That will conclude our press conference.
You've been listening to officials in Durham providing an update on Project Swan. That's the investigation into Whitby's self-proclaimed crypto king. 25-year-old Aiden Pleterski is accused of bilking millions of investors, and he was arrested just this week. Over 100 investors have filed claims. Much of that money has not been recovered, and we can now tell you he has been charged with 1 count of fraud and 1 count of laundering money. He was arrested and released on bail Tuesday. Let's bring in our crime analyst, Steve Ryan, now for a closer look at this investigation. Steve, we just heard investigators say how emotional this would be for victims. What stood out to you as you listened to that press conference?
Well, first off, the amount of money that the police are alleging that people have been duped out of, over $40 million. And one of the investigators talked about the embarrassment that some of these victims might feel. And it was important that the officer did talk about victim services. And you might think if this is a victimless crime. Yeah, it's money, but that oftentimes hits to the heart of people. Many people invested a lot of their hard-earned money with promises of getting rich or getting back huge returns. And this money was obtained by falsehood or deceit, and it wasn't put towards investments. It was put towards other things, allegedly, like this young person's lavish lifestyle, this 25-year-old accused lavish lifestyle with boats, cars, planes, and large houses. So people are embarrassed as to what they've done, but people get duped every day by these type of people.
Yeah, but see, we just heard in this news conference that he wasn't even registered. How does that add up?
Yeah, that's big news. That's huge news, that he was not registered to invest people's money or provide financial advice. So as you heard one of the investigators from the SEC say, that you need to do your due diligence. And oftentimes, we always talk about this. If something sounds too good to be true, it often is too good to be true. But he was being recruited by people themselves, according to reports. When he was 21 years old, people were going to him because he was making promises of 5 to 7% per week on your money. And how this came to be is that people went to him recently to redeem some of their funds, and he was unable to provide that, and this is why they went to the police.
So police have now laid 1 count of fraud and 1 count of laundering money. How do they determine these charges when they're looking at a case like this and millions of dollars are on the line?
So the benchmark is $5,000, either fraud over $5,000 or under $5,000. And it doesn't matter if you defrauded $40 million from people, it could still be an accumulative 1 count of fraud over $5,000. The amount of money lost is still $40 million, and that'll all go as part of the aggravating factor. If, in fact, he is convicted and sentenced, it'll be a loss of $40 million as opposed to the 1 count. So it sounds like 1 count of fraud over $5,000 is not as serious as $40 million, but that's just the title of the charge. It actually is very serious when you factor in all of the circumstances.
Okay, see, we know that there are multiple jurisdictions involved in this. We just heard about Toronto Police. Can you tell us, what do you think that role is? Because they weren't able to, reveal everything because there's a pub ban here.
So the Durham Regional Police are the multi-jurisdictional case managers of this multi-jurisdictional investigation. They will rely on information from other victims from other jurisdictions as well. I guarantee you that not all the victims are contained within the region of Durham. You heard the officer talk about it being multi-jurisdictional, perhaps even international victims as well, but it'll all fall under the umbrella of Durham Regional Police because that's where the crux of the fraud was committed, and this is the jurisdiction that is laying the charges.
Steve, is there a lesson for people here, victims of financial crimes, victims of crypto scams?
Yeah, be very careful. Be very careful. As we heard, do your due diligence, because oftentimes, these big grandiose promises are made, and 99% of the time, they don't turn out to be true.
And along with that, Steve, you did mention victim services, but then also, because there could be more victims out there, ways that people can present new information. And what if you're dealing with someone who you may not think is on the up and up? How does that all come together, especially, with investigations like this, making that phone call?
So the SEC has a website. They talked about contacting that website. If you're not sure who is wanting to take your money, you can see if, in fact, they're registered. Give the police a call. If you got somebody you think is trying to scam you and they're attempting to commit a fraud on you, give the police a call. They'll do a follow-up.
And just lastly, Steve, based on everything you heard, how do you think this 25-year-old is going to plead? I know it's hard to answer that, but what are you watching for?
Yeah, so fraud investigations are difficult at times, but if you've got a situation like this where you've got multi-million dollars being funneled from people and being put into one's own lifestyle, and I say that because there are TikTok videos out there of this person on boats, planes, and big homes. So they will follow that money, if it's digital currency or hard currency. Where was it promised to go to be invested? Where did it wind up? And it could very well wind up in those houses, in those planes, in those boats. So it's going to be difficult to get out from underneath all of that. But, you know, reasonable doubt is reasonable doubt. So oftentimes people have that, certainly have that right to plead not guilty and make the Crown prove its case. And that might be the case here as well.
And at the end of the day, the max that he could be facing is 14 years. That's possible.
Yeah, 14 years is a max. Oftentimes, people don't get the maximum in most sentences. But if convicted of this type of crime, there certainly will be a significant jail sentence for sure, in my opinion.
That is for sure. Our crime analyst, Steve Ryan, watching this very closely. Good to sit down with you. Thank you, Steve.
Sure. Thanks, Steve. And right now, it's 12:26, 20 degrees. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24. You're watching CP24 Live at noon. Stay with us. The Toronto Zoo is welcoming a pair of new additions.
3-year-old snow leopard Gita gave birth to 2 cubs earlier this week following a 97-day pregnancy. The zoo says Gita is doing well and is diligently nursing, grooming, and cuddling her babies. They are not visible to guests at the moment as their care team needs time to monitor the cubs' development. The cubs don't have names yet, but the zoo has taken to calling them snowballs.
Well, coming up next on CP24 Live at noon. Durham police announcing details this hour in the arrest of would-be self-proclaimed Crypto King. We're going to have the latest next. Durham Police and the Ottawa Securities Commission announced details of their investigation into Whitby's self-proclaimed Crypto King.
The TTC board facing tough questions about the state of the subway after Line 2's major shutdown on Monday. We'll tell you more about that.
And the push for round-the-clock construction of the Gardiner, with patients already wearing thin for those caught in the congestion.
Good afternoon and welcome to CP24 Live at noon. I'm Lena Latifat.
And I'm Bakari Savage. Our top story, officials in Durham, they updated their investigation into Whitby's self-proclaimed Crypto King this afternoon.
Yeah, that news conference taking place moments ago. And CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan has been listening in very closely. He joins us live with the very latest. Steve, what stands out to you about this investigation and these latest details?
Well, I think the latest news, Lena, that jumped out at me and to many others, I'm sure, that were listening, was the fact that the Pleterski was not licensed to take people's investment money and invest it for them or provide financial advice. So this was a 25-year-old person who promised big things from people who were going to invest with him. And the allegations are that he took over $40 million from investors, 100 plus victims, investors, would-be investors, and that money was not put towards the investment. Less than 2% of that money, according to court documents, was put towards any sort of investment. The rest of that money, police allege, was gone towards Pleterski sustaining his own sort of lifestyle, and that went to mansions and boats and cars and fancy trips. So this is where the fraud comes in. If police believe on reasonable grounds that you obtained money from somebody through lies or deceit, and you took that money promising to do something with that money with regards to investment, but you did something completely different from that, that's where the fraud comes into be. Now, we also heard today from Durham Police and from the SEC that this is a multi-jurisdictional investigation and that police believe that there could be other victims out there across the country, across the world for that matter. So they are encouraging other people who may have been taken by this guy, or believe that they may have been taken by this guy, to give them a call, because the investigation is certainly far from over. But right now there are multiple people that have been affected by this, and the Pleterski is charged with one count of fraud over $5,000. What that means, even though the allegations are that $40 million were taken, it's a cumulative effect of all that money that was taken. The benchmark is $5,000 over or under when it comes to fraud. Over $5,000, it could be $5,020 or it could be $40 million. In this case, right now, the allegations are that $40 million was taken illegally, and now it's going to be tough for these victims if, in fact, this person is convicted after his trial. It's going to be tough to get that money back. Restitution is always difficult, especially in a case like this where perhaps the money has just disappeared. So
okay. All right, CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan. Thanks, Steve. We're following breaking news, sad news this afternoon from the Bell Media family. Longtime TSN host Darren Petitioned has died.
Petitioned's family says he passed away surrounded by his closest loved ones. He began his career with TSN in 1995 and became one of Canada's most popular sports personalities. He hosted late-night editions of SportsCenter and also hosted Olympic primetime during the London and Vancouver Games. He was just 57 years old. TSN's James Duthie joined us earlier to share the legacy he leaves behind.
The phrase larger than life, I think, gets overused, but he was truly larger than life. First of all, just a huge man, one of the most ripped sportscasters I think we've ever seen, but he had the heart to match it, the personality, the sense of humor. He was my first co-anchor hosting SportsCenter in just the early 2000s, and I was intimidated as heck because he already had this big reputation, and just sitting next to him, this massive personality, I didn't know if I could fit in, but he was the most welcoming partner and probably just the most passionate guy about sports. He truly loved coming into work.
And a special tribute to Darren Petitioned will air on TSN tonight at 6 o'clock. What a loss.
Yeah. Well, shifting gears here, wildfires continue to burn in Western Canada, and at least one home has been damaged by the Park Lake Fire, which is burning near Fort Nelson, BC.
CTV's Andrew Johnson joins us live with the very latest. I see that you're on the ground there, Andrew. What can you tell us?
Well, there's good news out of Fort Nelson today. The town's mayor, who has stayed behind during this evacuation, has reported it's raining. We spoke to him this morning, and he was smiling. I don't think anyone's ever been so happy to be standing in the rain, but then confirmed the threat is not over. This 127 square kilometer fire is 2 kilometers from town. The town has been evacuated since last Friday. It's been almost a week now. He has confirmed several buildings have been damaged or destroyed in the outlying areas. The town is safe. There's been some damage in the outlying areas. We're still confirming exactly how much damage has been done. 2,500 people who evacuated are here in Fort St. John, where I am, staying in hotels, staying in RVs, staying wherever they can. This town has opened up its doors to its neighbors, and the smoke has really rolled in here overnight. It's thick. It had been clear till now. Evidence of a shift in weather that's brought rain to Fort Nelson, cooler temperatures, and higher humidity. So the BC Wildfire Service says firefighters on the front line are able to get closer to the fire, put out hot spots, and keep it away from homes where sprinklers and other structural protection equipment is also in use. They're throwing everything they can at this fire.
Okay. CTV's Andrew Johnson live with the latest. This is near Fort Nelson, BC. Thanks a lot.
Closer to home, the TTC board is meeting today, and members are facing questions about Monday's subway fiasco that stranded thousands of commuters.
Yeah, CP24's Courtney Hills joins us live with more on what we can expect. Courtney.
Good afternoon, Bakari and Lena. Yeah, that meeting's still underway right now. We're hearing there is going to be a lunch break at about 1 o'clock, but a surrounding what happened on Monday, that shutdown, that hydraulic oil leak, resulting in about 12 hours of shutdown, no option there, a long line too. This impacted a lot of people who were trying to use the subway that day and also raised a lot of questions. And what we heard from Councillor Matlow, along with the TTC chair, Jamal Myers, saying they had questions for the TTC on how it was handled and really what happened and where they were on the report with it. Now, what we're learning this afternoon as part of this opportunity to really hear from the TTC CEO with the TTC board, we heard that they've actually had quite a few of these hydraulic oil leaks so far this year, saying so far 7, and taken to consideration, they say the last 5 years, there have been 10 leaks in total. So they're seeing quite a few just since January of this year. And there was the question to the TTC CEO, Rick Leary, is this common? What's going on here? And he said it's very uncommon. Now, I'll let you hear from the TTC chair, Myers, who talked about this, and again, some of the concerns he had and questions he had going into this meeting.
There are a lot of questions that need to be asked, and there's a lot of concern over this incident, how it happened, and that this is not the first time you've had a hydraulic oil spill this year.
And Councillor Matlow had said he also had some concerns and questions he was going to be bringing into this board meeting. Again, when it comes to this leak and why it's become such an issue and what the TTC is going to do about it, he told me he wanted to see more transparency and accountability from the TTC. Also saying, well, they're waiting for an investigative report on what happened in this case. They want regular reports on these oil leaks and what they're doing to try and prevent like this from happening, and the TTC CEO says is something they can do. So we do believe there is going to be an opportunity to hear from Rick Leary after 1 o'clock, so a chance to hear a little bit more about what the TTC is dealing with here and maybe get a sense of why this is happening so much, especially this year, guys, because it obviously has a huge impact. We saw that on Monday. There were thousands of people left stranded and waiting for shuttle buses when they usually would be able to hop on the subway on line 2. Over to you.
Okay. Live at City Hall, CP24's Courtney Hills. Thanks, Courtney. Well, also several major construction projects in the city. They are causing extreme gridlock and a lot of frustration.
That is for sure. The bridge rehabilitation project on the Gardner Expressway near Dufferin, that is scheduled to continue for the next 3 years. And some are calling on the city to extend the construction hours to get it done faster. The increased congestion impacts about 200,000 people every day and affects the city's productivity. Councillor Brad Bradford is among those pushing for around-the-clock construction on the expressway, and he joined us live with his thoughts.
We're hearing loud and clear from Torontonians that this is unacceptable. You know, you look at other countries around the world at the pace that they are able to complete infrastructure projects, but here in the city of Toronto, it's hurry up and wait. And I think that's unacceptable. So I will be bringing a motion to council next week that calls for 24/7 construction and acceleration of this project. Also looking at other technologies, building off-site, staging, bringing it in to do it faster. And again, better coordination with our parallel routes in the downtown. Everything's a mess right now, and we're not giving Torontonians an option to get in and out of work and home to their families.
24-hour construction is allowed under the contract, but the main hours of construction are 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday to Saturday. Bradford says that shaving a year or more off the timeline would also save the city a lot of money.
Welcome back. Saving money for retirement can be a major part of your financial planning, but a new report finds gender inequality continues to be an issue. And
Commissioner Katie Phillips joins us live with more. She's the commissioner and CAO of Pay Equity Office. So your report's about 100 pages. In 100 pages, you sum up inequities from the 70s.
Even earlier, the 60s, because if you believe it or not, our pension system, the Canadian pension system, was designed in the 1960s. And so when we're looking at the inequalities, you can imagine how different our labor market was in the 1960s and the transitions that have happened. So, yeah, we're trying to sum up like a generation of policy that have created inequalities.
What are your key takeaways when it comes to the pension pay gap, and why hasn't the situation improved since the 70s?
It's a great question, and this is why we did this report, because we made an assumption that, you know, in fact, gender wage gaps are closing, which is a great improvement. We see more women in the labor market, which is a great improvement, like astronomically higher numbers. So we assumed that the gender pension gap would be closing, but in fact, it actually increased since the 70s. And the 70s is the earliest time we have data. So it's gone from 15% to 17%. So that's really curious. And so we did this report so we could dive in to understand exactly that question, why? And really, it's because of system design. The system was designed in the 60s. You had primarily male breadwinner income, single-family incomes, heteronormative families, and that was sort of the structure that it was based on. But we know that society has changed, labor markets have changed, and so we've got to keep pace with that change.
And so, again, explain the correlation between, you know, the pension system and, you know, what you put into the system when you are an actual working employee.
That is a great question, because part of the challenge that creates inequalities is that the pension system is based on hours in the labor market. And we know that women, single mothers, intersectional women work less because there's more challenges. They have greater expectations or desire even sometimes to be at home or outside the labor market. So that is a significant challenge with both the public, federal system, and also private, and not even allowing, if women step out of the market for care to buy back the hours would be a huge, huge immediate improvement.
Yeah, you're saying this matter demands urgent attention. How do we even begin to tackle this systemic challenge?
It takes a lot of players. And so this report is, it's aimed at employers, it's aimed at financial services providers, pension providers. It's also aimed at policymakers who have the power to actually look at and reevaluate the system and system designs and change it. Also, we hope women get educated, right? Knowledge is power. And so it's not up for women to solve a problem they didn't create, but definitely having this knowledge will help them.
And just quickly, how soon, if at all, can this be rectified?
I think women can take action and policymakers can take action, and pension plan, they can do it today. They can read the report and see that, hey, we need to reevaluate the way we've been doing this to have more equitable outcomes for all of our clients, all of our citizens.
Okay. Commissioner Katie Phillips with the Pay Equity Office. Thank you very much for your time and the work you put into that report.
Thank you
Thanks so much for sharing this with us. It's certainly an important discussion. To another story we're following now. An event was held today at Hamilton's First Ontario Centre to kick off major renovations at the downtown stadium. The $280 million renovation project, that's expected to last 14 months and will see a complete transformation of the facility. One of the major upgrades to the stadium include increased capacity, which will allow the arena to host up to 1,800 people at a time. And Hamilton's Mayor Andrea Horwath spoke earlier on the renovations at the Hamilton Arena. Take a listen.
There's no doubt that today is an extremely important day for our city. The renovation here, the transformation here, represents a significant investment in our downtown core. The transformation of First Ontario Centre, which includes upgrades to the exterior, enhanced interior facilities, space for all residents to enjoy year-round street-level activities, will create a vibrant entertainment district here on York and Bay.
The arena is expected to be completed by November of 2025.
Well, the Argonauts quarterback, Chad Kelly, says that he's pulling out of training camp after the CFL suspended him for violating its gender-based violence policy. The announcement comes after the club said it had placed Kelly on its suspended list yesterday before walking the statement back. Instead, the Argo said Kelly would not be participating in team activities or present at its facilities. He's set to miss 2 exhibition and at least 9 regular season games. The suspension was issued following a probe into harassment allegations made by a former strength and conditioning coach. Well, Kelly issued a statement that reads in part, quote, "I have had to take time to process the findings from the CFL investigation released last week, as they were not consistent with the person I am, nor the team and community leader I strive to be. I want to support the Argonauts organization as it prepares for the season and have made the decision to withdraw from training camp to minimize distractions for the team and have put in the work to earn both reinstatement in the CFL and everyone's trust. I look forward to getting back on the field soon."
The Professional Women's Hockey League playoff series between Toronto and Minnesota is heading to a 5th and deciding Game 5.
Now a chance, Jakes. That one flies wide. Liz Shepard's right. Minnesota scores!
Minnesota took Game 4, 1-0 in double overtime last night. Claire Butterack scored the winning goal. Toronto has seen its series lead collapse after being up 2-0 at one point. Game 5 will take place in this city tomorrow. The winner will face Boston for the inaugural PWHL Championship.
And the Vancouver Canucks take on the visiting Edmonton Oilers in what is now a best-of-3 situation heading into tonight's Game 5. The Oilers evened up the series at 2 games apiece with a 3-2 win Tuesday at home. Elsewhere, the New York Rangers are going to look to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals with a win over the Carolina Hurricanes tonight.
And coming up next on CP24, live at noon, big plans are already in place for Taylor Swift fans ahead of her shows here in Toronto this fall. We'll have more on that story coming up next. We want you to meet a special guest.
Lips, crystal skies, I could show you incredible things.
All right, so Lena's really excited about this. In just 6 months, Swifties are going to descend on our city in droves for a series of 6 concerts right here in Toronto. And while tickets are hard to come by, fans can gather at the Convention Center for Tailgate 24.
And what Bakari's not telling you is that he, too, is a Swiftie. Joining us live with more on what's in store is event co-founder and producer Bram Goldstein. So good to be with you. This is such a great story about community. Tell us how it all came to be.
Yeah, I mean, my partner Joel and I are big music fans, and we were just sitting around one day talking about how my kids are going to the concert, and what are they going to do beforehand? And we did some research, and we saw that she gets about 20 to 30,000 fans outside of the stadiums where it's hot, and it's in LA and SoFi Stadium and stuff like that. And we're like, but hold on a second, they're coming to Toronto in November, might be a little cold. It might get dark, or does get dark around 5:30, 6 o'clock. So we're like, let's look for an indoor space that they can have this massive party and get everybody hyped and give them the energy before they go to the big show. So it's like the big show. It's like the show before the big show.
Okay, so Bram, put this together for me. How does this all work? And, how does this fit in with that vision that you had?
I mean, it all works to the fact that if you have a ticket to the concert or you don't, you come to us beforehand. The convention center is steps away from the Rogers Center, and you come there, and there's going to be a bracelet station and a glam station and Instagrammable-worthy photos and an entertainment stage and food and beverage. You are doing the tailgate before the big show. You're already going to have the night of your life. Now it's going to be even better because you're going to do that day before and the night of. So it's going to be amazing.
It's the party before the party, right?
It's a party before the party.
What if you don't have tickets to the show? Because, look, those are expensive and hard to come by. This is a space for those people, too.
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't have it, we want people to have the sense of community and that safe place to go. And if you're a fan and you didn't get tickets, come on by. You're still going to dance. You're still going to take pictures. You're still going to trade the bracelets. You're still going to make new memories and meet new friends and have those experiences. And potentially, if we have enough people, maybe we'll open up, one more day for people that didn't get tickets, and we've got the space for a little bit.
I'm curious, when you put this out there, what kind of interest did you find? How did people react?
Right away, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe someone's doing this, and it's so great that someone's doing this because we want to be in a group. We don't want to just stand, with 2 or 3 people going to the show. We want to be in a group. There's so many fans out there that are not just music fans who want to get out of their homes, dress up, and really be a part of this. So it's been fantastic so far.
Bram, also talk about the community that comes with this, of being a Swiftie fan and, being able to come together and do something like this.
I mean, fans want to, be together, but the sense of I love music. So for me, making memories my whole life, going to concerts and going to shows, those are things that I remember forever, right? Mm-hmm. So this whole element of, you get to now have that memory with all of your friends together, and 12,000 people at the convention center with over 6 nights. I mean, it's going to be, the energy is going to be, palpable. We can't wait to create it.
What's your message to people who are going to come by, and how do people get in touch?
So right now, tickets are on sale at torontosversion.com. Okay. Follow us on our social channels at Toronto's Version. We're going to be announcing that we are giving money to Daily Bread Food Bank, Food Bank of Canada, and Big Brothers Big Sisters. So watch out for some big announcements that are going to come on our social channels, and tickets are on sale. And pick a show date. Come on by with.
I know your daughter's going to be there. Are you going to be there?
I will be working.
Will the parents be there?
I will be working for the event, and it's a great thing you mentioned that because we will have a Parents and Guardians Lounge. I think that's really important where the parents can drop off their kids. Kids are doing their own thing. We'll have something for the parents to do. Certainly, we'll have beverages there and food and drink, but they can have a place to wait for their kids in a safe place.
Such a great idea.
You better make me a cool friendship.
I was going to say we're gonna be there. Obviously,
you're going to be there. Yeah, we're doing every day.
Bram Goldstein, thanks so much. Pleasure to sit down with you, and good luck with the event.
Yeah. Bram, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys.
And thank you for watching CP24 Live at Noon. Coming up after the break.
Durham police announcing details in the arrest of Whitby's self-proclaimed Crypto King. We'll have the latest coming up next. Stay with us.